down the road, and a lot of them came out because they want to make sure things don't change too much. Let me show you why. This is southeast Tacoma, and as you can see here in Sellwood, it's got a pretty small town feel, and this obviously is the Sellwood Bridge, and this is what they're trying to protect because they say they want to make sure it's walkable in the future. Now, plans to do something about the deteriorating Sellwood Bridge have been kicked around for years. A recommendation out earlier this month would reconstruct the bridge in its current location, but just make it wider. The question here is how wide. Two options are either 64 feet or 75 feet. Marchers say with traffic, bike lanes, walkways, and even streetcars in the future, 64 feet is more than enough room to get the job done, but still keep their community the way it needs to be.
Because I want the neighborhood to stay walkable, stay bikeable for my kids.
Now, no one is arguing the 84-year-old bridge shouldn't be replaced. They're just debating what the best way is. And as you can imagine, there's a tremendous amount of information on this bridge because this debate has been going on for so long. So coming up tonight at 6, we're going to show you a really cool tool that you can use to help sort through all the information and help make you make an informed decision. Susan?
Well, Adam, we saw so many people out there marching today, but what are these community members giving up by campaigning for this smaller bridge option?
Well, you know, Susan, what it really boils down to is just a few feet. As you look at the bridge right now, that's literally 32 feet wide. They're talking the difference between 64 or 75 feet, so they're really roughly talking about just a few feet. But what they're trying to make sure happens is that it keeps the small town feel. That way they can come out, feel safe, not feel like they're around too much traffic. And really, when it boils down to it, the difference between those two measurements, they're both going to come in the ballpark of $300 million.
Same price. Okay, thank you so much, Adam.
64 feet wide allows the 32 feet that are in place to remain in place. They build half the bridge and then they tear it down and build the other half. Long story short is the bridge would stay open during construction.
There would eventually be 2 lanes of traffic plus huge lanes for bicyclists and pedestrians, even extra room for a streetcar down the road.
And I think this community is really walkable, it's really livable, it's very bikeable.
It is all those things, but the Sellwood Bridge itself is falling apart.
I work under it every day.
Sandy Hubbard's office building is directly under the Sellwood Bridge.
When anything heavy rumbles over the bridge, our whole building vibrates. And I keep a flashlight on my keychain. That's how paranoid I am that at some point if the bridge crumbled in that I'd be trapped in my building.
Multnomah County's bridge expert says it's one of the most unusual situations he's ever seen. Bridge supports are actually inside Hubbard's office.
You know, you've raised a really good point. The owner of the building has sheetrocked the columns. There are 4 columns that go through that office building. And no, you can't inspect them. They're covered in sheetrock.
Pullen says the bridge is one earthquake away from catastrophe.
The bridge is falling apart.
Neighbors are tired of waiting. They're taking action now to clear up the foggy future of the Sellwood Bridge. Well, next Friday, city and county officials will decide on a preferred option for the Sellwood Bridge project. Then comes the environmental impact process. And finally, officials will have to find $300 million to build it. Bottom line, construction is likely still years away, and that means it probably won't be part of President Obama's stimulus package. Amy.
All right, thanks for the update. It needs to be replaced. However, they do not want it to exceed a width of 64 feet.
So we have a flourishing, vibrant community here, and the community feels very strongly that we don't want it taken over by a much larger bridge than is necessary to fulfill a lot of needs and provide for future flexibility. 64 feet provides for a lot of future flexibility.
Many say the proposals for a wider bridge would turn their main street into a major thoroughfare. Another meeting on the matter is scheduled for Friday.
Well, more than 100 soldiers from the Oregon Army National Guard left today.
Well, K2's Adam Gassimi joins us from the foot of the bridge with the option mini favor. Adam?
Susan, the people who march today say they represent neighbors, business owners, and even commuters who use this bridge to cross the Willamette almost daily. But what they don't want in the new bridge is a new highway.
Sellwood's nice, Sellwood's good. Make it fit our neighborhood.
By foot, bike, and even shoulder, hundreds turned out in Saturday morning's thick fog. They hope this will not only be a wake-up call for neighbors, but also community leaders on what type of replacement the Sellwood Bridge should get.
It's one of the times when we all speak with a unified voice. And I don't think it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Build it right!
With countless options on what to do, this is a discussion that's been going on for years. But recent talk of simply reconstructing a wider bridge in the same location is the hot topic.
64 and no more!
This is what we're marching for!
64 as in 64 feet wide. The smaller of two recent recommendations organizers here say is more than enough for vehicles, bikes, walkers, and future mass transit, versus a wider option some say would turn their quiet community into a highway.
Keep the community alive and not destroy it by putting a ton of traffic through the neighborhood.
It's already accommodating a lot of traffic from both Multnomah, Clackamas, everywhere.
The 64-foot option will give them the replacement bridge the area needs,
So it's nice.
while maintaining the reason they say they live here.
Because I want the neighborhood to stay walkable, stay bikeable for my kids.
Now, back here live tonight, there is a tool to help you sort through all the information, a website.
And the Tacoma Main Street plan. Residents want to keep the proposal for the new 2- or 3-lane bridge, the Sellwood Bridge, less than 64 feet wide. They also want plenty of room for pedestrians and bikers.
We just really want what's best for our community and our kids. You can tell we've got a lot of kids out here, and we just want what's going to be safe for our families.
I know that there are people living here in Sellwood, who want to have their community protected and not just become a stopover on a commute.
A community task force recommends building a new 2- to 3-lane bridge to replace the current Sellwood Bridge just south of where the bridge is now. It would be about 64 feet wide with 12-foot sidewalks and separate bike lanes. Next week, a group of officials will consider that recommendation before making their own recommendation. Then that plan has to be adopted by Multnomah County, the City of Portland, and Metro before the Federal Highway Administration can issue final approval for the bridge. Meanwhile, the Oregon